All right, so hello. It is time once again for another episode of Midcard Mana with, of course,
Sam Kiola, the wrestling connoisseur.
And the loose cannon. And future world champ Allison said I look cute in this. I'm going to keep it on for as long as I can tolerate it. So we're going to be we're bringing you the second part of This Week in WWE. So this is for the week from 10:15 all the way to 10:22, I want to say. 10:21.
Help you out there.
Thank you, iCalendar. So we're going to talk about SmackDown Live. We did get a chance to talk about Monday Night Raw last time we met, so we're going to talk about SmackDown Live, which I think was very effective this week as far as making Sami Zayn a solid heel. Yes. Using the only tactics they knew how. Turning him against the most over person in their home arena, Daniel Bryan.
Which makes more sense than what they have been doing.
Yeah, I mean, if there was any way that he was going to finally get over as a heel, it was that. Going after Daniel Bryan is probably the easiest way to make sure you get heel heat.
As over as he is in that arena, where he had to actually tell the fans, like, hey, calm down.
Yeah.
We only have 2 hours.
Yeah.
Let me get through this.
Yeah.
And I was worried at first because Sami come out as usual, dancing around. Yeah. Same music.
Same music, which is weird, but when you see him enter to it later in the show, you can kind of see the difference in how he's treating the music.
They will change the music, I think.
I'm hoping. I mean, back before he was as big of a babyface as he did have different entrance music back in NXT, so I'm hoping maybe it's either a return to that or maybe something different. Maybe something similar to KO's music. Or even...
I would say similar to the music he has now.
Yeah.
But maybe slow it down.
I'm just hoping they do not just have him enter with KO all the time and have KO's music.
Yeah.
Because it's important, I think, that they build him as a heel that is separate but equal. So he comes out, or
but they're
Daniel
so good
Bryan.
Together.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan comes out in the beginning and starts talking about we only have 2 hours to put on a great show. He announces some of the matches for the card, rematch between Ziggler and Rude, women's 3-versus-3 match with Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Naomi versus Lana, Natalya, and Tamina. And then he proceeds to talk about a man whose actions at the Hell in a Cell disappointed him, Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn comes out. Daniel Bryan sort of gets in his face like, how can you still be happy and smiley and dancing after what you did? And Sami basically says, I'm not a bad guy. I'm still a good guy. I'm still the same person. I'm just taking back ownership of my career. And then he proceeds to talk about how for most of his career, he's always wanted to be like Daniel Bryan, which I thought it was so good, where he's always sort of aspired to have that same level of adoration from the fans, respect from people as Daniel Bryan has. But then he acknowledges the one major difference in that Daniel Bryan had the crowd and Sami Zayn never quite had the crowd in the same way. And so for all of the times where Daniel Bryan went against authority and did things his way, he had the crowd behind him. Whereas when Sami Zayn tried to do the same, because he didn't have that same level of support, the people who were in charge didn't take him as seriously, was basically the gist of what he was trying to say, which I thought was right on the nose and perfect. The little
jabs he did really made his heel character shine, because he was really treading this moral ambiguity line, like, I'm still the same person, and he was throwing out these great dilemmas that you can't fault him for.
Yeah.
He is like Daniel Bryan. He didn't have the crowd support.
And because of that, he never blew up quite as much as Daniel Bryan. He didn't achieve that same level.
I always wanted to be like you. I was always just one or few steps behind you.
And by the time I caught up, you were already 1 or 2 more steps ahead.
But now, like, I wouldn't want to be like you at all now.
Yeah. So he basically is like, you gave up your body and your career for your fans, and now you're nothing more than a housewife.
Big heat.
Ooh. That was
it kind of seemed like it touched home with Daniel Bryan too. Like he almost looked like he wanted to cry.
Well, I mean, and I think definitely that works really well between the two of them because of the fact that their career trajectories were so similar, and how they conducted themselves within the wrestling industry. You know, they were unapologetically themselves, and it was through the love of fans that got them pushed as far as they did. I mean, back in NXT, Sami Zayn had a huge following. He was the.
I mean, oh yeah.
He was the.
He was there for a long time.
The Daniel Bryan of NXT, essentially, and he was the big underdog there. That finally at NXT Takeover, our Evolution, finally got his moment where he won the NXT belt after years and years of trying. But unfortunately, he's also the shortest reigning NXT champion, which makes me very sad.
But I mean, that's kind of a whole part of the storyline too, is that he was in NXT so long. Kevin Owens came and went like very quickly, and a lot of others have too. Joe, Shinsuke, even Rude. You know, they've come and gone in through NXT really fast. He was there for a really long time, and he's kind of been overlooked. So, I mean, the whole storyline works out really well.
Yeah, and he acknowledges that actual point, too, where he, once Kevin Owens comes out, he's like, you know, I got to thank you because you made me realize that while I was trying to do things the right way, my way...
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I didn't achieve that same level of success as you did because you went out there from day one and made an impact. And that forced people to take you seriously.
Universal champion?
Yeah. I mean, he was...
Is he still the longest reigning Universal champion?
Yes, I believe so.
At least fighting Universal champion?
Yes.
Because Brock's maybe had like 3 matches.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But Sami Zayn, from the time Sami Zayn came to the main roster to now... I mean, you look at his career and you look at Kevin Owens' career, and they're very, very different. And it's unfortunate because both of these guys came from the sort of same stock back in Canada. They trained with each other. They had a very long indie career with each other, partnering and tagging and feuding. And to see now Kevin Owens has made such a name for himself because of the character he is and how he's presented.
Well, I think definitely their paths have gone different because Kevin did go heel.
Yeah.
And they needed a heel. Kevin's been there when they needed someone.
When they needed that person.
When the opportunity knocks, he made the most of it. And they just didn't need that big of a face like Sami was.
Yeah.
Obviously. They want to go with more of the Brock Lesnar or whoever type faces. And so the opportunity just hasn't been there. So I feel like this showed up and he probably jumped on it. So then, like, Kevin Owens does come out in the promo,
and he comes in so much straight better. For the kill. As soon as he comes out, he calls Daniel Bryan a like pathetic failed martyr.
You know what they call people like that? A hypocrite.
And basically says that Daniel Bryan has become the one thing he's fought against his entire career. He's become the authority. And Sami Zayn calls Daniel Bryan in his home arena where he retired a sellout.
That's what Kevin Owens did. He looked at the crowd.
All that heat. I mean, I think that promo alone solidified Sami Zayn as a heel, and then the moves that they made throughout the show really sort of added depth of characters to what kind of heel he was going to be. So that was great. And then once they have their back and forth, Daniel Bryan leaves. Kevin Owens like, oh, that's all you have left. Yeah. Leaving arenas. And he just goes, actually, no, I'm gonna go find you guys to punch you in the face. So,
I'm sorry, but when you put somebody with Owens, there's never anything wittier you can come back with.
Yeah, no.
Owens is just really fast.
He is. He's very good at what he does.
So it almost come across like, I'm going to go find somebody to punch you in the face. It come across very emo-like, don't run away.
But it's Daniel Bryan.
I know,
everyone loves. He is beloved.
So, Kevin Owens, the whole show, though, he was just on his mark. I think him and Sami working together, he's just beyond.
I think
happy right now.
Well, I'm hoping very much that this run with the two of them helps out Sami a lot, I think it will. There's always the reservation of, will KO still, like, will the star power of KO outshine Sami even at this point?
It could.
Because KO, Kevin Owens, is an incredibly talented performer in all aspects.
I think we have to consider it, though, like Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Triple H was getting over, and he was his own character and everything, but with Shawn, it brought a whole other dimension with him.
Oh, yeah,
and I feel like that's what's
going
to happen with Sami.
Yeah.
And then when Shawn left, Triple H was just able to skyrocket. So, not hoping Kevin Owens leaves, but if they ever split him up on brands again, I think Sami will do well on his own. More so than he is now, at least.
Here's to hoping.
So what was the next segment?
So the next segment after that was the women's 3-on-3 match. So it was Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Naomi versus Lana, Natalya, and Tamina.
Enter any week the women are on TV, and you could just slide it right into this spot, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's usually around there, and it's around the time where they cut to commercial break into the split screen. I like the fact they do the split screen because it allows for people to see matches even when the commercials are going on. I think it's very smart. Unfortunately, I feel like it's a shame that it has to come at matches that perhaps management doesn't think are quite as important.
Right.
And especially with how much they're trying to push women these days, it's unfortunate that it almost always comes at the expense of a women's match.
I've said it many times, they need their own show. And just throwing 6 of them, 4 of them together here and there, just... it doesn't help them at all. Yeah. I mean, it may advance the storyline a little bit.
I was going to say, it did at least sort of do some for the storyline, because we did get to see the finisher of the match was Charlotte Flair tapping out Lana with the figure 8. Yeah. Which is the figure 4 leg lock with her bridge.
Yeah. The weakest one gets the tap. She taps out, which is Lana. And it's, there were spots in the match. Yeah. It's a typical 6-man match, but...
And then Natalya comes out afterwards and beats up Charlotte, furthering the feud between the Hearts and the Flairs. Which, in some ways, I like, because it'll give Natalya a good feud for her belt, now that she is champion. Mm-hmm. It is unfortunate, though, because Charlotte has always been the sort of go-to competitor.
It's a real shame they're not... I mean, Charlotte just turned face because of the whole Ric Flair thing. Almost dying thing. Yeah. But it's a shame they're not flipped face heel-ness, because if they had brought in Harry Smith to be, like, Charlotte's boyfriend, that would have been, like, a great touch. Like, oh, look. I could be a Hart now, too. And then Talia just losing it or whatever.
That would be funny.
But just use somebody like they use other women.
Book
sometimes.
it.
So what was next?
So the next match after that, or actually the next segment. Also, I just would like to say I really still want the Anything for Carmella shirt. It's weird. They've started to acknowledge that dynamic in a very weird way, sort of tenuous way, because nobody wants to actually call it what it is, and sort of like he's a slave.
If we weren't in a PG era, he would be wearing a gimp suit.
Yeah. So it's interesting how they're trying to handle it. So the next backstage segment that happens is with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan coming past, and they're like, "Hey, did you find anyone that wants to fight us yet? I bet you can't." He's like, "Nobody, no, not one person, but literally everyone." And so then that's when they announced that the next competitors are, or the people that are going to be fighting Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens later on the night are Randy Orton and his tag team partner Shinsuke Nakamura.
Is that how he does it?
It's this. It's the you bend the.
No, that's what Daniel Bryan did. He's like, "Is that how he does it?"
Yeah,
you're like, "Oh, you're really funny, aren't you?"
It was great. I loved everyone like everyone in that show doing Shinsuke impressions. It happened so much. I loved it.
It's got to be an on-running joke.
It's great. It is excellent. I love him. So they finally have a segment of Pulp Fashion, where they have the Royale Rumble with cheese. I liked that how dedicated they were to being iconically Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean?
Just totally ripping
and
it
especially if that's what they're going for, I thought it worked really well.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not crazy about the fact that Tyler Breeze yet again has to be dressed up in drag. Because I really like Tyler Breeze, and I think it's a cheap laugh, and I think that there's so much more you could do with him. But I'm not writing.
Neither is Jimmy Jacobs now.
Neither is Jimmy Jacobs. I almost wore my Jimmy Jacobs shirt today. Came
yeah,
really close.
The drag stuff is, I feel like it's totally a Vince thing that he's like, oh, he's gonna be in drag.
It certainly is.
I mean, we're at a point in society where that's not as funny as it used to be. We've moved on from that a little bit. The costume things still gets a good laugh, and it serves the same point, like when he was dressed up as a janitor.
Oh yeah. Also, I don't get this friendship that the Ascension's trying to make. I really don't.
Especially since they still look like the Ascension.
Yeah, if they
the whole makeup.
If they had changed their aesthetic,
even for this,
even changing their makeup,
just no makeup,
or even just changing the makeup, I would have been more okay with that.
So what I would do would be like next week they actually show up in suits like Fandango.
And, try and emulate them a little bit more. Yeah. It'd be cool.
But because apparently they're going to be friends now. I didn't agree.
But someone stole the briefcase, so we're going to find out who.
Even though
they tried to lampshade it, that it was, guys, it's obviously the Bludgeon Brothers.
So apparently they are going to go through with that. Is what my thinking is.
Who knows?
I don't know how that's going to work out because we do get a Bludgeon Brothers vignette later on.
Yeah, but the next thing that happens after that is Baron Corbin versus Sin Cara. Baron Corbin teasing, how would you guys like this to be a United States Open Challenge? And everyone cheers. And I'm just like, this isn't going to happen. He's like, yeah, well, that's too bad. Because the United States Open Challenge is done forever.
Cheap heat.
Yeah.
Like Corbin needs cheap heat. He can just be himself and
get that and get all the heat.
Sin Cara with a different mask.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it without the ears.
With a different mask, and I felt like it was different music, but I haven't heard his music in a long time. Yeah. But I mean, Sin Cara gets the win via count out.
I feel like it's going to be a mini feud.
Yeah.
Like this is just something
sort of like a placeholder feud.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the main feud for that belt is Corbin and Dillinger.
Yeah. I feel like it will be. I don't know if Dillinger's injured or anything since
I don't know. Or maybe they're waiting to build it until it's closer to a pay-per-view.
Maybe. But I'm like, okay, Sin Cara, that would be good for him to at least get a small feud under his belt.
Yeah, airtime.
To look a little dominant. I don't know. Because Sin Cara kind of made him look
weak. Like he did. Baron Corbin got counted out because he couldn't make it back to the ring in time.
Honestly, at this stage,
made him look soft.
I don't know how I would have fixed Corbin. I would not fix him by continually doing the same thing. Yeah. Putting a title on him doesn't fix him.
No, even though they're trying to
lone wolf thing and all that jazz, but you know what? It doesn't work for him. He's tall, but he's lanky. He just doesn't have this intimidating factor.
And he still wrestles in a shirt, so they think he's fat.
Exactly.
I'm not saying he is fat, but the fact that they make him wrestle in a shirt lends itself to that they believe he is. Mm-hmm. It's a problem that I have, and that's probably something that maybe we can do another episode on. But the body is fat. Well, the body aesthetic, the like weird ways that they have body aesthetics. Like my big problem is their problem with Chris Hero, but that's another thing. Because I love Chris Hero.
Chris Hero's awesome. I think since we're on this subject, I'm just going to interject this little bit of news in that I read that was just slide it right in because it does have to do with this situation. Apparently, WWE has been outed by Triple H's nutritionist or something that several wrestlers are taking HGH supplements. Mm-hmm. And since it's not like really illegal, in wrestling per se, it's not like, and I mean, I get the point, it's not baseball, it's not MMA fighting, it's not a real sport.
Get out.
It is entertainment.
Yeah. And it does require each and every single one of their performers to have some sort of level of athleticism, whether it be strength or speed or endurance or anything like that.
Or even just the aesthetic look, which is...
For some of them, it's pretty much all they've got.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally get it. I mean, I even remember a Billy Gunn interview where he talked about it. He's like, yeah, you're constantly in the ring four times a week, and you're working out every day, things are going to tear.
Yeah.
And so you take...
You need that sort of supplement to make sure that...
Because you have to fix all these injuries.
Yeah.
And there's, like, a lot of wrestlers get a lot of injuries. Like, Kurt Angle had, like, 7 tears at one point.
Yeah, it was like...
And, like
he's had countless.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like, all at once.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
So you need something, especially when not performing... for a lot of people ends up being career suicide.
Right.
So it is definitely a priority thing, and I think WWE functions sort of like a don't ask, don't tell. Mm-hmm. Except for if they can legitimize it in certain ways. So I have read articles where they talk about how some people are prescribed certain types of hormonal supplements for actual pharmaceutical reasons without it being for enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
So
even like testosterone. Yeah. I mean, none of these guys are getting younger, so I mean that is a thing that you're a guy you have to get prescribed when you get older.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially you're like, some of these guys are older than me.
All right, so I'm gonna reshift focus back to SmackDown. So the next segment was a backstage segment with the Usos talking about how they're 5-time champions now. 5 times. It ain't paranoia.
Sucker. No way, that's more too.
Whoa. 5 times. And then Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable come in. You can barely hear what Shelton Benjamin says because Renee Young is a little too slow on the mic. And he also talks quietly. But Renee Young is just like, oh, he's talking.
That'd be a great gimmick for him. It would be an awesome gimmick for him. He'd just be like...
I'm like, maybe it's just me. I could barely hear him. But basically,
like,
because Benjamin and Gable are the number 1 contenders, it was basically sort of meant to set up like a showdown between the two of them. Which ends... Which segment ended with Benjamin and Gable putting out their hands to shake hands, and then the Usos going in for the handshake and them going, ha ha! It was okay. Chad Gable is the biggest nerd in the WWE right now to me. I've never really been...
That says a lot.
I've never really been crazy about him. I will acknowledge that I did like his tag team work with Jason Jordan, and I'm pretty okay with his tag team work with Shelton Benjamin, but biggest nerd in the WWE. I want him to go over to Raw just so the Good Brothers can call him out on being a nerd and just go, nerd! That's all. That's it.
I still say they made the wrong choice.
Like
it got messed up somehow. Like I think it went over, and they said like, "Oh, here's a story. Like Chad Gable's Kurt Angle's son. He's really Chad Angle, and blah blah blah." And Vince probably went, "It'd be funnier if the black guy was his kid."
Because it's
Vince is funny. His sense of humor is not. This is the guy that brought us Mae Young having a ham sandwich with Mark Henry as a child. So
who knows?
What happened? It would have worked better if it was Gable, and then Jordan and Shelton tagging would have been phenomenal. It would have been mind blowing, those two as a tag team, honestly. And then Jordan might actually get over.
Yeah, it's not working for him. I feel really bad, but that's another discussion entirely. But the next thing that happens is the video package promo for the Bludgeon Brothers, which is the reuniting of Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. Rowan. Which, it was so weird because it seemed so stiff with their delivery. It looked very much like they were reading off of a cue card.
I imagine they were probably just like us trying not to laugh.
I feel like maybe it was that, but I felt like it didn't do them any favors.
They have to be really pissed off right now because they've been off TV for months. They came
to Hawaii.
Harper was actually
They
getting
had a great
over.
match against each other.
He was actually getting over. He was in like the upper mid card. He was teaming with Orton. He was fighting top faces and heels or whatever. And he actually had a world title shot.
And then that
was like his last TV match. And they just pulled him when instead of just like keep working on an angle.
What they should have. Okay, so the feud should have been Harper versus Orton. And Harper.
That was a really good match.
Because Bray Wyatt didn't need that feud.
Right.
Harper versus Orton would have put Harper a little bit more on the map, and then Harper would have had the justification of like, I told you.
Yeah.
We shouldn't trust this guy.
Yeah, that should have just been like the next.
So it would have been a nice justification for him, and then have him win that feud is sort of like saving his family. You know what I mean? I thought that would have been really good.
Even from that, like, you're going to repackage them. Fine, you're going to repackage them. Why have Rowan with the mask still?
Yeah, why have remnants of their old gimmick if you're going to give them a new one?
I don't understand. Like, at one point it looked like there's stuff laying on the ground, and it almost looked like their old blue jeans attire and stuff. And I was expecting the vignette to have Harper throw the mask in there and then set it on fire and
or smash it or something.
Smash it. But they never showed us.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
He put the mask down and then
they smashed something else that wasn't the mask. So, or maybe they smashed the mask and I just didn't see, because the mask is John Cena. I don't know.
I don't know.
But so we're confused a little bit as to what's going on there.
And I don't know if anybody follows Rowan on Twitter, but he has a lot of great little vignettes he's made himself. And these are great ideas that for them not to take these and run with them is mind-boggling.
Sort of a waste.
But there was one even where he has like a clown sheet mask. Even having them come up with those. I've
seen that picture, honestly.
Having them dress similar with the clown mask. And I think the masks should actually be worn through the match. Mm-hmm. I don't think they should take them off, but that's a different story too.
That's a different story. All right,
so I don't know.
Trying to stay within WWE this week and what happened. So the next thing that happens is Jinder Mahal comes out. So Jinder Mahal comes out, talks about his time in India when they went for the press tour, and talks about how he felt he made his people proud, and he relates this very specific story of how this little boy came up to him and says, "You've beaten Randy Orton, you've beaten Shinsuke Nakamura. What is left for you?" So he then calls out Brock Lesnar. Because he feels like beating Brock Lesnar, beating a man that people think is unbeatable, will finally get him the respect he feels he deserves in the United States. The same amount of respect that he gets when he's back home in India. So that is possibly for Survivor Series.
Yeah, it's going to be for Survivor Series.
That would be kind of awesome. I would love to honestly see him win it.
Or are they just having it tossed out there to hype it up? If they do, it's going to bury Jinder. It's not going to hype up a Survivor Series match for Jinder versus AJ. I mean, that would be as over as anything on SmackDown.
Yeah.
But to suggest Jinder versus Lesnar and not do it is career suicide.
Yeah. So we're hoping it's title versus title.
It's not. From everything I've heard, it's going to be non-title.
Well, I mean, the main champion of Raw versus the main champion of SmackDown. Yeah. Not title for title.
Title versus title would be great.
That would be amazing.
Have Jinder win. Oh
that would be awesome. That would do wonders for him.
It would. He needs to win the match by hook or by crook. Somehow he needs to win the match. I think they should fly Khali in for it for an F5. He'll probably break his leg and die. But Khali needs to come in for it, get an F5. I think anybody that they feel could be an ally of Jinder should be involved in that match just to put over Brock. But I think in the end, Brock needs to do the job. After cheating, Brock take the hellacious Colossus and put Jinder over. He needs it.
Or Colossus, sorry.
Colossus.
But that, so the setup, what that ended up being a setup for was AJ Styles coming out and saying, hey, you know, there's still worthy opponents on SmackDown Live.
He's a loser.
Apparently AJ Styles is a loser.
I was waiting for that. You lost to Corbin. You are a loser.
So it's set up nicely-ish for a possible feud between Styles and Jinder.
I do wish they had made it a little less on the nose. Like, he did just lose the U.S. title. He just lost his rematch. Now he's going to challenge for the world title. They do this a lot, and I hate it.
And they do the whole thing where it's like, no, you're at the back of the line. Which I just liked.
True.
Because it's not false.
They should have had a mini tournament and be like, no, you're at the back of the line. And Daniel Bryan come out and say, I hate to say this, but Jinder, you're correct. So next week on SmackDown, we're going to have a number one contendership. Yeah. And do 4 matches, 5 matches, whatever. And have a small tournament that AJ wins. Mm-hmm. And it would be easy to do. I don't know.
But if
you
they
can
do
start storylines off of it.
Yeah. Oh. But then, so what happens afterwards is after AJ Styles goes in and cleans house, clears the ring, Jinder Mahal goes backstage and is like, Daniel Bryan, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this disrespect from AJ Styles? Daniel Bryan's like, I don't know. What are you going to do about it? And
I want retribution next week.
And so he makes Sunil Singh, which is Gurv Sira, challenge AJ Styles next week.
I mean,
for his honor. And he's like, huh? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I got this. It's just like, that's awesome.
But for real, it is awesome because we're finally going to see him in action. Yeah, we have not seen the Bollywood
I'm really
boys
glad that they're finally going to have some sort of actual performance in the ring. Yeah. I'm really excited for that. Even if it's going to be a squash match. Mm-hmm. We'll see. So the next thing that happens was a rematch between Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode.
I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, Ziggler wins
by cheating. Sort of like a haha to Bobby Roode because he also won
by cheating.
By holding the tights too.
As your boy pointed out, Ziggler started all this tight pulling business.
Yeah.
And Corey Graves. And couldn't think of his name. I always want to call him his old name.
Why is he my boy?
Because you said yourself he's aesthetically what WWE's shoving for you to like.
Yeah, and I don't buy it.
But yeah, it's a strange feud. I feel like on paper it looks like Ziggler versus Roode. Oh my god.
Yeah, it looks like it would work, and then how they're approaching both characters has made it fall flat to the point where people don't care as much.
I would care more about it if Ziggler was his old face gimmick and Roode was his NXT heel gimmick. And I would be happy with either outcome then. Because Ziggler would definitely need to win because he's didn't get any wins as a face. Mm-hmm. And of course Roode would need to win as the upcoming heel talent. As it is now, it's like...
And either way, regardless of what direction it went in, it wouldn't hurt either, really.
Right. You can still build off of it.
But...
where it is now is I don't know, this Hill Ziggler thing, I don't know where it would build from there. Or if this is just something that they're planned that they're going to turn Roode heel on, even though they just brought him in face because they knew nobody would boo him as a heel.
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know. Jim Jacobs ain't there no more. It's hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah. So the next thing that happened was a backstage segment with Aiden English singing a song about being Johnny Appleseed backstage. And then, someone looking at their phone. He's like, would you look at your phone on the opening night of Don Giovanni? And they're like, what are you even talking about? Who watches opera, apparently? And then he's like, yeah, no, you wouldn't. So why are you doing that to me? And then the New Day comes in. And everyone loves it because it's a New Day, obviously. Right. And so that happens. They have a little back and forth. Rusev comes in, and it's like, it's not a New Day, it's Rusev Day. And Kofi Kingston, the MVP of this segment, goes, "Oh, it's Rusev Day again? It's time to celebrate!" And Xavier Woods starts playing Rusev's theme on his trombone.
Which was also a great...
It was beautiful. It was so good. And
so, apparently, let me just throw this in. Apparently, the feud with Randy Orton is over.
Yeah, it appears to be done.
I was so happy to see that Rusev got so much out of that feud.
I know, just benefited.
Which apparently
so
was
much.
like just several RKOs.
Yeah, it was just like maybe 4 or 5, honestly.
Completely buried.
It was brutal. That's how much they hate Lana, I
he
guess.
will definitely get more over in a New Day feud.
Oh, definitely. But then it leads us to our main event, which is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, on paper, you would think Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura would win, but that's where you're wrong. My boy comes in.
They're not best friends.
My boy comes in the clutch, delivering a low blow after escaping from a Hangman DDT.
Which needed it for this big heel turn.
And then getting in the Helluva Kick to pin Randy Orton. And then on his Twitter and his Instagram afterwards, Sami Zayn posted that feeling you have when you pin a 13-time world champion clean in the middle of the ring. And I was just like, oh, thank you for this.
Well, you notice, like, after he hit the Helluva Kick, he goes, yes. It was just the little things like that they're so adding in for the heel.
And how he entered into the ring was the same way as how he usually does dancing, but his dancing was so much more like exaggerated and camp.
It's more egotistical.
That it's, you can tell it's a lot more of like making fun rather than like serious happy-go-lucky. Little things matter.
They do.
They really they've helped a whole lot. So after their win, via low blow, they go backstage. They celebrate. They come across Daniel Bryan. They're like, Daniel Bryan, we beat him. Bet you didn't think we could beat him, but we did. So what's next? Who's next? Who's next week? What are you gonna do? And Daniel Bryan's like, oh, it's not for me to decide. That's for Shane McMahon to decide because he's gonna be back. And both of them are just sort of like, oh no, not really panicked, but just sort of like a slight look of worry.
Yeah.
And then they go back.
Which is the best part.
they re-enter, and
Orton
then they cut.
And Nakamura's coming back up the aisle.
This incredible segment where, and it's mostly Kevin Owens doing the talking, but Sami Zayn comes out doing obnoxious yes chants. It was so good, and Kevin Owens basically ends like, I'm Kevin Owens. This is Sami Zayn, and he's my best friend.
And Sami hugs him, and he just goes, the line of the night, the best way to close the show.
Hold me tight.
Screams it into the microphone.
And Sami does so.
Yeah.
Because they're best friends. Did you know? I loved it. It could not have ended better, honestly. I was so pleased with how
really
that's worked out. It
was the Kevin Owens show.
It was, oh man, he really is doing the legwork for his friend. And not to say that Sami Zayn can't do it, but a lot of people at this point still aren't totally taking Sami Zayn seriously with this. Mm-hmm. So I think the added sort of oomph from Kevin Owens has helped a lot.
I do think that this is a situation where you have two guys who are great on their own, but they're together, they're even better. Yeah. Together they're more, but I mean, the sum is more than its separate pieces in this situation.
Yes, so that was SmackDown. We're going to go over 205 and NXT very quickly, so this video isn't too long. So 205 was basically more of Enzo, being Enzo, saying that now he has friends, and his friends are making Starbucks, and he ain't talking about cappuccinos. Get it? Because they're stars and they're making money. So Kalisto comes out and does everyone a favor and kicks Enzo Amore in the face. So it sets up for their match later. So it's Enzo Amore with Arya Daivari versus Kalisto and Mustafa Ali. They have another video package yet again between the Brian Kendrick and Cedric Alexander. They're really pushing this feud, but they're not pushing it with a whole bunch of new stuff as much as they are using the same footage over and over again. So it makes me a little concerned about these two cruiserweights, because I'm a big fan of the Brian Kendrick and I'm a big fan of Cedric Alexander. So I'm hoping that this helps both of them, even though they're not in the title picture, but it's how it's being handled is questionable to me. Yeah. So the match afterwards was both of their tag partners for this Sunday. So it was Rich Swann versus Jack Gallagher. And that ended in a disqualification in favor of Rich Swann after the two heels pretty much attacked the two faces. And it sort of devolved into a kind of brawl / massacre fight, whatever. So this does not bode well for them going into the TLC pay-per-view. But we'll see what happens. Drew Gulak talks about... he's basically crazy now. He's crazy in a suit. So he talks about how rules are meant to be followed and how Tozawa didn't let him complete his PowerPoint about, the rules and proper etiquette and all that. So he's the authority of 205 Live, but has no power. So it's very weird.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're actually using him as a talent instead of just having him on the side. Mm-hmm. It's an attempt at trying to use their talent, which I have to begrudgingly respect.
Even if it's wrong.
Even if I'm not crazy about it. But luckily for us, that PowerPoint that he worked so hard on that Akira Tozawa didn't let us see because Tozawa interrupted it. We're going to get to see his PowerPoint presentation this Sunday on the TLC pay-per-view. Pre-show in its entirety. So apparently there's at least a dozen or 24 slides or something, so it's going to be a good amount. Unless, of course, it's interrupted again by Tozawa, which I hope.
Probably.
But we'll see. And then the main event, which is the same as the main event of 205 last week, which was yet another tag match between Kalisto and Mustafa Ali versus Enzo Amore and Arya Daivari.
Why would they do the same tag match again?
I have no idea, because it ended very similarly with Kalisto and Mustafa Ali winning against Enzo Amore and Arya Daivari, with Enzo Amore eating the pan after taking a Salida del Sol. So I don't know if they're having him lose so that he'll win again. I'm hoping not, but we'll see. And then in NXT news this past week, it was trying to figure out another competitor for the Women's Fatal 4-Way match. So right now, currently, we have Kairi Sane and Peyton Royce. So this week's match was between Ruby Riott, Sonya Deville, and Ember Moon, in which, of course, Ember Moon came out in the third spot. Now, this next pay-per-view, this NXT TakeOver, is in Houston, which is where Ember Moon is from. So, I mean, we know how WWE does stuff where they don't like to have people win in their hometown, but we also know how NXT does stuff where they like to. So,
right. So it should be interesting.
We'll see how that pans out. Another throwaway match, or not throwaway, I shouldn't say throwaway, but another squash match.
It's worse.
Between Aleister Black versus Raul Mendoza, who's been a standout from the Cruiserweight Classic from last year.
I don't get Aleister Black.
He's actually Raul Mendoza has gotten more screen time in NXT as far as being, unfortunately, right now used as development talent or jobber, than a lot of people on the 205 roster get. So I think it's really cool. He didn't get past the first round in the 205 or in the Cruiserweight Classic, but I'm glad that he's getting this exposure now. Yeah. I mean, clearly they saw something in him. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad he gets this opportunity. I liked him from what I saw.
There's a lot to be said for enhancement talent.
Mm-hmm. They're important.
We used to have it a lot, like Jim Powers, Paul Roma. Every now and then they get bumped up a little bit.
Yeah,
Power and Glory. So I mean, they have their spot, but they don't really use it anymore.
Yeah.
Except to bury the low card.
So unfortunately that match was a squash match, where Aleister Black won, but advancing the feud between him and the Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream.
I'm hoping the Velveteen Dream wins the feud.
He's not going to. I wish he would.
I don't like Aleister Black.
But the Velveteen Dream came out, and when Aleister Black took off his vest and put it on, walked around the ring, watching the whole match with his vest on, which I thought was great heel work, honestly. And an interesting thing that makes the lines between heel and face a little unclear.
They do that in WWE?
Aleister Black, well, especially in this feud, especially because Velveteen Dream is very heelish. Like, he's obviously supposed to be the heel in this situation. Aleister Black refuses to call him by his name and calls him by his real name.
That's weird.
It's very weird. So he doesn't call him Velveteen Dream or anything like that. He calls him by his real name, which is Patrick Clark. So he's always just like Patrick, which is a very heelish thing, I feel.
Because
like it's a show of not respecting the other, I feel.
Bringing the Velveteen Dream up to the main card at all with the name Velveteen Dream.
I mean, like how they did with No Way Jose.
Right.
Which makes me sad because I like No Way Jose.
So, I don't know, maybe this is a turning point where they're like, okay, we're going to put his name out there and just put that as his nickname to get him set.
Patrick Clark, the Velveteen Dream.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream.
Right. But yeah, I don't care for Aleister Black. It's like he throws a couple kicks and I don't see wrestling.
I feel like they're trying to push him
lack of
as sort of like a new CM
supernatural
Punk, honestly, like a spooky CM Punk, because his in-ring mannerisms and how he holds himself even approaching the ring is very reminiscent of CM Punk, I feel. So we'll see what happens there. On good news, my man Cassius Ohno, Chris Hero, won a match versus Cesar Bonani. So I'm hoping this bodes well for perhaps him getting a little bit more of a push.
If it was me, I'd already bring Hero up to the main card.
Tag him with Cesaro.
That'll never happen.
That would be awesome.
That'll never happen.
What's better than the bar? The Kings of Wrestling.
Yeah, but I like the bar. But
what's better than the bar? The Kings of Wrestling.
You could always bring
bite you on this.
Ohno up and put him in the Shield like he was supposed to be.
But then where would...
Well, Ambrose is leaving.
I was like, where would Roman Reigns go?
Still in the Shield, because he has to be over somehow.
Yeah. But that happened. And then setting up for War Games, it was a tag team match between the Undisputed Era, which is Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish, versus Sanity, which is Alexander Wolf, Killian Dane, and Eric Young. That ended after an attack from Authors of Pain on Sanity. Oh. So setting up for War Games, because the War Games match is supposed to be, I believe, Roderick Strong and Authors of Pain versus Undisputed Era versus Sanity.
A 3-on-3 type.
A 3-on-3-on-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm excited to see how it works.
Yeah. I know Triple H has always wanted to bring the War Games over, and Vince was always against the idea. So,
but Vince doesn't do anything in NXT,
right. So this is going to be good, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited for that match.
This is and that's going to be in Houston?
Yeah.
This is
but the actual title
pay-per-view.
The actual title of it is NXT War Games, though. It's not following the naming convention of a lot of the other ones where they take the name of the city they're in.
Mm-hmm. Take over.
Yeah, NXT Takeover London.
This is good because this will be like their premiere pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Takeover.
I'm hoping that this is their gimmick pay-per-view, you know what I mean? Where they have a War Games match every time. That would be super cool.
I imagine that's.
I would like it a whole lot, and it would give a lot of opportunity because then you would have the opportunity to have so many people involved in that sort of match.
War Games is so much better than Elimination Chamber.
And yet they keep doing Elimination Chamber. I hear they might do a women's Elimination Chamber, which
nothing
would be
wrong
cool.
with it, but I always loved War Games.
Oh, luckily, NXT, and since it's Triple H, it'll be done.
It'll be
well.
Yeah, should be brutal.
Yeah, which is just the
Especially
way we
with
like
Authors
it.
of Pain.
Yeah,
you know you're going to see that double power bomb against each the collider.
Yeah, I was going to say the super collider. I think is what they call it.
And if it has the top steel cage on it too, like most of them did, it's going to be like boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna be great.
Yeah, that is this week in WWE.
Yeah.
Or the rest of this week. It took us about as long to cover just as much because SmackDown this week was so.
It was better than Raw.
Yeah, and SmackDown this week there was so much going on, specifically with the Sami Zayn advancement into being a heel, and he's always been my guy, so I wasn't going to talk a lot about him.
It was booked much better than the pay-per-view, in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
Because I think the pay-per-view was all over the place. But yeah, that was SmackDown.
That was SmackDown and NXT and 205
Live.
for this week. So
signing out.